In this video, I'm going to explain how to do subtraction using a number line. Subtraction is a really hard concept for a lot of people, and using a number line is just a good way to show what you do in your head. For lots of strategies that we know using our fingers, it's a good way to show those strategies on paper, and it makes it a little bit simpler. We are going to start by doing 25 minus 12. So first, let's start by thinking about this as a number bond, or a fact family, or a fact triangle. So we know that 25 is our total. And one part of the 25 is 12. And so what I want to do is figure out what is the other part that makes up that 25. And I don't know yet, so I'm going to put a question. So this looks like a fact family, fact triangle, number bond. There are a lot of different names for it. But the important thing is that you know how all these numbers are related to each other. So I can write it 25 minus 12 equals question mark something that we don't know. Or I could write it 25 minus this much that we don't know is 12. I could also write it 12 plus something is going to give me 25 as my answer, my total, or something plus 12 is 25. So these are all, there's 4 ways to write these 3 numbers and show their relationship. That's really important to know. That's why we teach fact families. Because now, when we use a number line, I can set it up a lot of different ways. I can set it up, we've already learned how to do addition with a number line, so I can set it up using this and say 12 plus something is 25. And so I just have to figure out what that is. Or I could set it up this way and start with 25 and work my way backwards until I get to 12. Or I could think about it this way, which is the way it's starting out that we wrote it. So I could start with 25 and I could go backwards on the number line 12 places and see where I end up. And so this is the way that I'm going to start by showing, but in reality, this is going to be probably the easier way and the way that you're most comfortable with. And it's the strategy that most of us use in our head of pick the small number and count up to the big number, but on paper. So let's just start with this one. Okay, so let me draw a big line. Okay, so if we start at 25, and if addition on a number line means you're moving forward, subtraction is the opposite, means you're moving backwards. So I'm going to move backwards a total of 12 spaces. So to start with, I'm going to start at 25, and I'm going to move backwards 12 spaces, and I can break 12 up into 10 and 2. So if I'm at 25 and I move backwards 10 spaces, that would be 15. And then backwards 2 more spaces would put me at 13. And so 13 is my answer. Now I can also do it this way, and I should still get 13 as the answer. But this time I'm going to start with 12, and I know I'm going to end at 25. What I don't know is what's going on in the middle. So I'm going to try to, just like when we add, I'm going to try to get to a friendly number. So 12, let's see, the next friendly number would probably be 20. So 12 plus 8 would get me to 20. Now, how far from 20 to 25? Well, that's easy because I picked a friendly number. That would be plus 5. So then what I do is I add up every jump that I made. So 8 plus 5 is 13. And that's my answer. And this is just the strategy we tell kids all the time. Put this number in your head and count up to the big number. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. It's the same thing. You're just doing it faster and you're putting it on paper. And when you put things on paper, it helps your brain to remember it much easier. Okay. So I want to show some more examples, and I want to show an example where we would have to do regrouping or borrowing in a normal circumstance. So let's do 72 minus 16. And so if we just line those two up, then I can't take away my ones, and so I have to come over here and trade out. And that's the way that we would do it. This is a lot for kids to understand. It's a lot to process. It's a lot to remember. And if you don't really understand what you're doing, it makes it that much harder because then it doesn't have any meaning behind it. You're just crossing out numbers and changing them. And if you don't really understand why you're changing them or why you're making the changes that you're making, then that's not going to be a helpful strategy. So I like to start with a number line because you do the regrouping and the borrowing and you don't even realize you're doing it. So I'm going to start with my total, 72. And I know that I want to go backwards 16 places. So I'm going to start by going backwards 10 because this is 10 plus 6. So backwards 10 puts me at 62. And then I have to go back 6 more. Here is where the regrouping would happen, right? Because I have 2 and I can't take away 6. But it's easier on a number line because now I can take away smaller bits to get me to take away the whole 6 without having to do it all at one time. So I can break 6 apart and do 2 and 4. That's 6 total. But if I take away 2 to begin with, that's easy. That puts me at 60. And 60 is a friendly number. 60 minus 4 is easy enough to do in your head because if you know 4 plus 6 is 10, then that would mean this would be 56. And so 56 is your answer because that's where you ended up once you took away the 16. But you could also think about it as swapping that around and making an addition problem. So my addition problem would be 16 plus something I don't know is 72. So we can set the number line up that way and start with 16 on one side. And I'm going to make some number of jumps I don't know. And I'm going to end up at 72. So now my job is to figure out how many jumps I make in between. So let's try to get to a friendly number. 16, I can do plus 4, puts me at 20. And then I'm trying to get to 72. So from 20 to 70, maybe you just know that that's 50, and that's great. You could make a big jump of 50. But if you don't, you could always do by tens. So 10 or 20 would be, plus 10 would be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So I did 10 for each one of those. And then that put me at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. And now I just have to go 2 more. Now I'm at 72. So now to get the answer, I have to add all these things up. So I'm going to start by adding my 10s, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, plus 2 and 4 is 6. So my answer is 56. And I didn't have to do any crossing out, regrouping, or any of that.